Welcome to episode 5 of the Overqualified Golf Dads podcast. Maddux Lytle here with co-host Scott Porter. Just here to chop it up a little bit on this awesome snow day that we're having. Obviously, you've got a little bit more than we have. We had a total of maybe 2 inches of all the snow if you accumulated it from my yard, but it looks like you had how much did you get up there?
It's still coming down, brother. It is.
Really?
Yeah, I'm looking out my window. It's just as heavy as it has been all day. So
Wow.
it is. It's still coming down for sure. I want to cut that. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where like up here, the reaction to it has been so much different. Like obviously I have all my Facebook friends are in Georgia, so I'm watching everything. I'm like, we cancel school. Go ahead and cancel school. Like up here in Tennessee, I'm assuming they cancel school. I have no idea. Everybody was just like under this assumption it was coming. Like there is no questioning. Like they could be wrong. It's like nope, we're getting 4 to 6 inches, and it's happening on Friday, and it's happening at this time. Like everybody just kind of knows. Jacob Prater, one of our buddies from Club Junkies, he lives in Manchester, or down near Manchester, Tennessee, Murfreesboro area, and he's like, yep, happens once a year. You'll get used to it, and it's pretty fun. Like it is snow. Like I think y'all are dealing with more of like a sludgy ice situation down there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us specifically, it's in LaGrange. It's like
you frozen? Yeah, we're frozen up. We're
Is it
frozen up. It's back.
Okay. So yeah, for us, it's just kind of, it was just ice, really. I mean, I woke up this morning at like 5 o'clock, let out the dogs, and it was like snowing, sort of, not really, and then I woke up again and I looked outside my window. I was like, well, there's not really snow on the ground. My mom sent me a picture from the store that we have up an hour from here, and it's like fully white. The roads are completely snowed over. The building itself is snowed over. Everything is there's snow. But for us, it's. I mean, I just drove to the gym and back and never saw ice. So
interesting. Yeah, it's one of those things up here. Like it is a true snow. I still don't want my wife to get out and go to work in it tonight. She's taking a nap as if she needs to go to work tonight. I'm hoping that she gets called off, or they tell her that she doesn't have to make the drive in, because it's still one of those things. Like it potentially can turn to ice and sludge really quickly, but it is beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous here. I took a bunch of pictures. We have a new horse that's exciting this week. We got another horse. So this is horse number 3 for us, but we are actively selling one of them that's back in Georgia. She's a baby, so we're selling one of ours, and then we got another one. And yeah, he's really tall. He's goofy. His name is Kizna is his jockey name. But I'm going to call him Kiz for Kevin Kisner. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, pretty neat. First day, I guess this is his first day there.
Yeah, I mean, he was here for like 3 hours yesterday or so, like in daylight, and then obviously spent the night, and then snow, baby, snow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's a San Diego horse too, so he's like, what the heck?
He is freezing then. Poor fella.
We put a big old purple LSU blanket over the top of him. It's not actually LSU. I'm just talking ish, but it is a big old purple blanket, and it was the same size as our other horse. And Skylar was like, well, he's a lot bigger than our other horse because this thing is like snug. He's looking like he's about to bust out the seams. He's fresh off the racetrack, so he's in really, really good shape. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so snow day activities. Jet did about 2 minutes outside, and then he was, getting a little cold. And new dad mistakes. You make them every day, to be clear. Like every single day I make a mistake, and I'm very aware I make a mistake when it happens. Today, two of those mistakes in the same moment. I forgot to put socks on the little dude. Not good. Not a good situation. Forget socks. Take him outside. And then number 2, I put his newborn beanie on, and his head has grown tremendously since when he was born, so that was a bit stretched, and the pictures look kind of funny. It's just one of those situations where I didn't know where they were. Like I just saw one randomly in a drawer. Turns out it wasn't supposed to be there. So yeah, that's how my day's going. But no, it's been fun. It's been a lot of anticipation for it, for the snow. Everybody's, as far as like me and Skylar is concerned, everybody else just kind of seems to be like, it's snow, it's here, it's Tennessee, this happens a lot. So speaking of, I think our audience is mainly here for the golf talk. What do you think First of all, seasonal depression is real. I don't think I ever experienced it until I moved up here. But the nicest day that I have seen is like 48 and sunny in like 6 weeks. So seasonal depression is a little real. I am missing real golf. I'm missing a golf course. But what do you think are some things that you do or that you have seen done or that you tell others to do to kind of stay interested and keep working on the game in the off season, specifically like your college players and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different options for that. You know, we're fortunate enough in our position at Point to have an indoor facility that's not necessarily needed in this part of the country, but we do have an indoor simulator, and then we have an indoor putting green that we use all the time for. Well, we don't really use it as a team, but the team uses it, especially the simulator. I mean, that's open to them 24/7 basically. So, you know, that's an obvious route to take on a day like today. I know some of the guys that are home or in town rather are able to go down there and get some work in that way. We're also in my area, which I'm assuming it's starting to grow a lot now with simulators or businesses that have simulators. You know, we've got one 10 minutes from my house, and then we had one in West Point that just moved out. But just finding something like that, if you're able to drive, but it is cold, say, I know northern states they're kind of used to this, so maybe just renting out a time. I know that like the way they do it here is you just go online and book a time to kind of rent out this one of the bays. You know, that's a really easy way. If you can't leave the house, having something as simple as like a carpeted room. So like for me, I have a carpeted room upstairs that I can use to just putt on or hit little chip shots, bump and runs, stuff like that. Having a perfect practice putting mat's a great tool just to get some putting in. And then there's various things, there's various ways you can get creative, and I think that's kind of the neat thing about our sport is that you can get creative, you can have fun with practice, indoors, outdoors, whatever. I see there's a lady on Instagram who hits balls inside of her living room into like the
I've seen her.
window basically. Yeah, so it's like a net that she has set up. So I mean, something like that. Maybe you don't have the space for that, but that's okay. Just find even a piece of cardboard and cut a hole in it. Like, just get creative and find a way to get some work in if that's kind of your desire. Or like you said, if you're in the seasonal depression, which again, we don't really have to run into that much down here. That's why it's new to you. But yeah, just getting creative and finding a way to practice. Short game is always something you can practice, even standing against a wall and making sure that your putting stroke is kind of staying, I guess, level back and forth. If you have kind of a straight back, straight through stroke type of deal, the
Yeah,
the
I mean,
wall itself is huge. You can probably go into a lot more detail with swing mechanics and stuff.
the putting stuff, I think a lot of people discredit it because it is just a straight putt from 3 to 8 feet on the practice putting. But what I always tell people is number one, it doesn't matter if it's straight or not. PGA Tour players miss 50% of 8 foot putts. Granted, if it is dead straight, they are making more of those, but that just means when there is break, they're missing more of those because the average is 50%. Like everybody's like, yeah, but if it's straight, they're making it 75, 80. Granted, all the more reason you should practice it, right?
Hmm.
Because that just means they're missing more of the ones that are breaking. Um, yeah, sorry, I was focused on Jet falling asleep there for a second. It's mission success, so I gotta just make sure I keep my voice somewhat down. But yeah, he's asleep. So when it comes to the putting stuff, also like every putt is a straight putt. Like I don't. There's so much misunderstanding about like playing break and just people not having confidence in making the right reads and whatnot. Every putt is a straight putt. You just have to putt it at your intended line. And I know that sounds like, oh gosh, like it just sounds crazy out there. But the point of that is if you can't hit a straight putt, you can't make a breaking putt, right? You have to be able to hit the putt on a straight line. You have to be able to get your ball to start on that line. Shout out Lab Golf because we all realized how bad we actually suck at that once Labs got in our hands and we are better at it. But our main point is even if you're playing a lab, you still have to start the ball on the line that you intended to start on, right? So I watched Colt Gnosis video. Did you see it where he's talking about like what each like? There's been a huge golf debate.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
a huge
yeah.
golf debate, like right edge, inside right, whatever it is. Go watch that video. It was I don't
Yeah.
want to steal his bit, but it was quite funny. And he was right. You have to know where you're aiming, and you have to know what verbiage you're describing when you tell somebody else where to aim. Like if I tell you one cup out to the right and you take that as okay a full cup out and then like you're aiming at the right edge of that cup, what Colt's saying, he's like, no, that's 2 cups, that's not 1 cup, that's 2 cups, or that's it just it doesn't make any sense when it comes to people discrediting the practice putting and the other, like I have the birdie ball, which essentially, if it was laying flat and my flooring was flat up here in the rental house, it would be a dead flat straight putt. I do get lucky because I do have a little bit of a break and I can play it. I've already figured it out on both sides coming up and back. That's just because our laminate up here is 30 years old and it's just not quite perfect. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. But at the same time, you have to be able to know how to make a straight putt. You've got to know how to start the ball on your intended start line. I think it's just one of the missing pieces that a lot of people don't understand about putting is if I started on the right line and I hit the right speed or the right pace, even if I miss, I'm going to have a tap in. And if I have a tap in all day long, I'm going to beat you or I'm going to beat whoever that I'm playing if they do not have continuous tap ins, right? Like if you two putt more often than you three putt, your scores are going to drop. And then you throw in some one putts on there because you get caught, you get hot, and you get some confidence. It's just one of those things where putting affects every other aspect of the game. So as far as swing stuff, I posted a video to my Instagram and TikTok and whatnot of using a 5-foot PVC pipe, just a standard. I think it cost me like $6 at the hardware store, but just as a stretch tool, right? I think the most important thing, and I'm not an expert, right? Like if you're looking at me, like yeah, like you're not a fitness expert guy, and I'm very much aware of that. But what I am is I'm very flexible in terms of the golf swing because I work on it continuously and I keep stretching and I listen to others and I follow the right golf Instagram accounts that help me with my stretches and show me new stretches to do. And I have this book where I just have them all. I'm going to shout out Trevor Smith Fitness down in Brunswick Country Club. He runs the Golf Fitness Academy down there. And, all the exercises that he gave me to run my fitness class at the 1919 Academy this past year, I just have written down in a handwritten notebook. And I just do different ones all the time. Like, I don't have a set routine. I come up with 3 to 4 stretches, routines that I want to do. I do 3 to 4 sets of those a piece. And it just helps so much keep your body in shape to swing a golf club. I'm not the strongest in the world. And power flash. I'm not the strongest in the world. I'm not, going to absolutely side bend like Joaquin Neiman, but I can do enough, and I can do enough to repeatedly have a solid golf swing, and so can you and others. Number one, people want us to talk so much about like the setup, the posture, playing, all the good stuff, all the meat of the golf swing, right? But if your body can't functionally move the way we need it to consistently hit the ball the way we want to, the work has to start in the gym. The work has to start in your living room. The work has to start, away from the golf course. We got to get you limber enough to be able to make a quality move. And once you can make a quality move, now we got to figure out how to repeat that move over and over and over again, making it seem a bit more simple than it is, right? But fitness, I think, is the number one thing you can do in the off season, the number one thing you can do at your house, the number one thing that doesn't cost any money. Like I said, I went to the hardware store and got that PVC pipe, and that's just because I wanted to have something to demonstrate better with than a golf club. You can use a golf club for this stuff. You can use an extra shaft laying around. You can use anything that you need to use to be able to get your body loose, stretch out and stuff. So check out Scott Porter Golf on Instagram to see that video just of 3 ways that I use the PVC pipe. And then check out Trevor Smith Fitness is a really good account to follow. Golf Fitness T Smith. Just search that, it'll pop up, and it's a really good account to follow for fitness. So moving forward, looking into 2025, what are some of the things that you want to accomplish more so? We talked about our goals, in the past, but what's something this week you've kind of been like, I really, really want to do this better this year?
Just in my own golf game, or yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I could go into a couple of different things. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I want to get really efficient with the lap. I'm excited to kind of get back rolling. We start school next week, and then we start practice, qualifying, play, and stuff like that the following week. And so I'm looking forward to getting back out there with the guys and kind of utilizing that as almost as a like a motivation for me to start playing a little bit more. So that's one thing. Like I know I said it before in our kind of with our goals was just play more golf, play more focused golf. Team wise, I definitely want to just utilize our space that we have and the connections that we have around us to our advantage to really explode the team a little bit more. We've had an okay start this fall, getting a couple of our key players back this fall, so we're excited about that. But really, just pouring into those guys a little bit more in the fact of, or in the way of golf itself, trying to really develop them a little bit harder and to make them as good as they can be so that we can get the national championship, and ultimately the goal is to win it. I think we have enough talent to do it, but we got to get there first, right? So
I have an idea
that's
for you.
yeah, talk to me.
I think your very first qualifying, this is going to sound wild. The boys might hate me for this. But I think one of your very first qualifying rounds, like your first one out the gate, number one out the gate, doesn't matter what you shoot, matters how many greens you hit.
Yeah. Hit more
Like
greens.
just the first one out the gate, just like 9 holes, or like maybe it's not qualifying, maybe it's just practice. But create a leaderboard. Create a golf, like you have all the stats. You talked about your stats and your stuff. One thing that I'm believing more and more and more and more and more is that it really don't matter how good of a putter you are, and as long as you're not 3-putting. Like, you don't have to be holing a lot of putts. Like, as long as you're not 3-putting. That's very, like, I want to be clear to that. Like, I'm not saying that you can just go out there and 3-putt, because you will shoot 85 and not be good. But if you hit greens and you 2-putt, par, under par, very consistently, that stat alone, with nothing else attached to it, if you improve green in regulations by 2-3 around over your average, you're going to drop your handicap faster than anything else.
100%.
Anything
I agree
else.
with that.
And, when I think of a couple of our players, guys that we both work with, your team, they take swing advice from me. Like, one of the things I want to get in their heads is like, yeah, decade, for sure, decade. Like, we want to be using the aims. We want to do the right things. We want to do this. We want to do that. But the first 6 holes, I want you to hit the first 6 greens. I want you to get started hot. I don't care if you hit it close. I want you to have a birdie putt on the first 3 to 6 holes. And I want you to get off to a solid start. And I want you to not worry about your score. I want you to worry about getting the ball in the target zone faster than you think you can, right? I don't know. It's just a thought. Obviously, I know you keep up with all of your stats and whatnot, and I remember how angry y'all used to get when you were a player, and if you hit the green, you had to like kick it off the green. And I know you did that. You've done that in the past with your students. But I think maybe an opposite, a little bit of a play on the opposite of that. Like, obviously, that's developing their short game, and that's phenomenal. But like, I think if you created like some type of side game, like over the first 3 weeks, the number one green in reg is exempt from qualifying. Like, every time you go play, you're going to have an active leaderboard, number one, for the time the first crown. You know what I'm saying? Like, something like that.
Yeah, no, I like that.
I think it would give them something to like, hey, I'm not going to be dumb here. Like, let me be smart. This is the fat side of the green. And I know if I can hit that, then there's 2 ways to qualify. It can be by a score, or it can be by leading the team in GIR.
Yeah. And that's something that we like. I would say I can see a big difference when I'm like out there coaching them or quote unquote caddying for them in events, is their aim points are always, or not always, but are usually a little too aggressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Always.
Like,
no, not always. Like,
yeah,
always.
always. And they always want to go
That's
like
everyone.
right the flag.
It's
And
everyone.
I was listening to the Bible Caddy podcast on the way, or at the gym, and then on the way home, and they had Bernhard on for their first one of 2025, and he was talking about the first year he won the Masters on hole 11. He aimed at the pin, and it was like a few paces from the water, like the edge of the water. And he was like, normally I would never go at that, but at the time I think it was on a Saturday. He was like, I'm 6 down, and in order to win the golf tournament, I got to make up shots somehow. So I told myself I was going at everything. And so he was like, I tugged it 2 yards. It stayed up. But like, if you aim to the right of that, away from the water, but give yourself, again, like you said, you want to give yourself opportunity. And like, kind of to, I guess, circle back just for a second on like the straight putts, and when I was in college, I can remember Coach Payne telling me that like, it doesn't really matter how good you are at the really hard shots, because you're not going to have those very often. So you really need to practice the really easy shots, because you're in your mind, you're expected to get those easy up and downs, make those short putts, hit the drive in the fairway on the wide open holes. Like, but if you only focus on the hard shots, then you're just expecting to be able to do the rest. Then when you do come up to that, then the pressure rises.
For sure.
Versus like, if you know that you're going to make every 3-footer because you practice that every day, then that becomes just almost like a second thought. Like, it's not even a thought. You get up your 3 feet, you're like, heck yeah, I know I'm going to make this because I practice it. You don't hit it to 3 feet and think I'm going to make this because I don't practice it. So, same thing with that. It's like, if you, like you said, getting off to just a solid start. Solid start doesn't have to mean 3 or 4 under par through 6. It could mean 1 or 2 over par through 6. That's on some golf courses that we play, especially, that's okay. But again, like if you're aiming to the center of the green and you're finding, okay, I'm hitting my target consistently, like even if it is this part of the green, I'm hitting that consistently. Okay, well then the next 3 or 4 holes, maybe let's get a little more aggressive because we've seen that we've been, we've hit our target. But if we're spraying it even to that conservative target, then maybe we say, okay, we're going to stay here at the center of the green, the fat part of the green, for the rest of the day, so we don't end up in those tough spots.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think I'm gonna clear something up for you. When we say center green, guys, we're not actually talking about the center of the green. Like we are talking about the fat part of the green. So oftentimes, like the skinniest part on several holes at Noonan is the front's wide, the middle skinny, and then the back's wide, like number 4. Right? Like we're not actually talking like every single hole try to aim in the middle of the green. Number one, it's hard to do because like what's the middle of the green? Like that's not specific enough of we still want you to have a target in your mind, right? Decade, I'm gonna go ahead. I mean, everybody knows what decade is, so I don't really need to feel bad about giving away the intellectual property if you pay for it. But like decade is forced. Like for example, if you're 160 yards away, you divide that by 2, that leaves you 80, and then take 10% of that. So that's 8. So the closest you can aim from 160 yards away in the middle of the fairway on a par 3, whatever, is 8 yards from any edge of the green, right? So if the pin is 4 off the left, you have to then add 4 more steps to the right of that to be 8 feet off the left edge of the green. And that's what I recommend most people do. That's what I teach everybody to do, because you don't want to get in a situation where you give shots away or you start aiming at the middle of the middle of the green, quote unquote middle of the green, and then you push it and now you have a 60-foot putt. If there's room, you can be somewhat aggressive towards it, but you can't be so aggressive where you aim it at every pin. You have to know. And then he has his modifiers where, like, if there's a bunker within a certain number of steps and whatnot, you have to adjust for that. And water is like 2 extra steps. If there's water on the left side of the green, you would aim 2 farther steps to the right. So decade is something where it's a mathematical formula to help you make the decision correctly every time. And I think, a lot of people use it, and then a lot of people get 3 or 4 over par in the first 12 holes, and then they kind of abandon it. And you've got to stay disciplined when you're using decade. Like that, you won't see the results of decade if you're using it 33% of the time, right? Like you're not going to see the results really affect your game if you're using it 50% of the time. Like you got to buy in. You got to use it. You have to understand shot patterns. You have to understand that even if you do push it, 3 holes later, you might pull it right next to the hole. So it's a wash. It's an average. What did Matthew McConaughey say in Wolf? It's a fugazi. It doesn't, it is going to average out equaling better golf. And everyone on the PGA Tour is using some type of system like this.
Yeah. And, I think when it comes to 100%, just kind of shift a little bit in the conversation, something, again, circle back to what anybody can do at home, and something that for our podcast sake, a dad can teach their kid in golf, or kid that's getting into golf, something that's super easy to do at home and something that's super important in golf is a pre-shot routine, right? So like Phil Shomo, a mental skills coach who I've mentioned before, and he really helped me when I was playing professionally. He really helped me after that. He helps me a ton with how I coach and how I am supposed to tell these players how to think on the golf course. I can remember him telling me about the pre-shot routine and the importance of it, and like the average percentage use of a pre-shot routine from an amateur golfer, a high-level amateur golfer, or a college golfer, and then a semi-professional golfer and a professional golfer. And at each level, their pre-shot routine gets a little bit higher in percentage.
It looked like a T-Mobile. Like the
Yeah,
T-Mobile
exactly.
chart.
Yeah, and a professional golfer, they use their pre-shot routine nearly 100% of the time. And somebody like they did. I know somebody has told me before about Tiger Woods, his putting routine, or his putting pre-shot routine. He in a year stretch, he was within like 6 seconds, like from his longest pre-shot or pre-putt routine to his longest pre-putt routine was within 6 or 7 seconds. Like that is crazy if you really sit down and think about it. If you think about how quickly 6 or 7 seconds can go by, first off. But then also that's what he's doing every single time. So developing something like that at home is just it's at least the starting point of it is pretty easy to do, right? Like you can picture yourself walking into a golf shot or picture yourself walking into a putt, whatever it may be. And the big science behind it with Phil was that makes us comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right? So if we can get used to doing the same exact thing every time, then we can take out all those other variables that are in our mind, especially in a high pressure situation where maybe we've got a 3 or 4 footer to win, right? If we can get our minds to dive into and stay in the present of our pre-shot routine, then you're just thinking, okay, this is just another putt. Or if you have to hit a drive on 18 down the fairway, um, a tighter fairway, then you can maybe say, okay, well, I'm going to go through my pre-shot routine and get my mind locked in on that. And then you don't even think about where the OB is. You're just thinking about, I'm doing the same thing that I've done every single time. And to that point too, back to the Kirby, I can remember in 20, whatever year it was, 18 or whatever it was. No, 2022. Was 2022? I can remember being in 18 fairway, having no idea where I stood because I did not look at the leaderboard all day long. And I can remember like walking up to that golf shot and feeling like I rushed it. And I literally took my club, put it back in my bag,
And started over.
breathe, and completely start over. Even from, I was like, I used that, and that's a testimony to what Phil was teaching me. Like I had to hit a 6-iron into a par 5 for my third shot because I pulled my drive left and had to punch back out to the fairway. And I can remember literally putting the club back in the bag, going back to the cart, grabbing my rangefinder, shooting it, doing my breathing exercise, grabbing the club, and then going straight back through the pre-shot routine, thinking about nothing else. But I've done this 1,000 times. And I hit it up there to 15 feet. And I firmly believe that if I wouldn't have gone back through the pre-shot routine, there was about a 50% chance that it came off the hosel. Okay, because there was some nerves there. Again, I thought that I had to. I knew I'd played well enough to probably win, but I didn't know for sure. And all those people up there, I was just like, I just need to get this over with. But then I calmed back down, remembered the pre-shot routine, went through that, and got it done. And again, I just think that, like you said, with percentages and kind of things that you can do all the time with using Decade, you have to use it all the time for it to work. Same thing with a pre-shot routine. I think if you do it all the time, it will become second nature. It won't be something you have to think about, and B, it'll make you comfortable when things get uncomfortable.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things about a pre-shot routine that most people don't realize is a pre-shot routine is something that pulls you, like you said, when you are uncomfortable, it creates a sense of calm around you and around the situation. Most of my pre-shot routine, I don't know that I do. Is that weird?
What do you mean? Like you just
my
do
thumb
it,
taps, right? My thumb taps, my club moves. There's minute parts to my pre-shot routine that may or may not be identical from shot to shot to shot. Because with a wedge, I might have a different feel than I do with my 4-iron. Right. So that's the weird part about it being a kind of a swing instructor and not a full-time golfer, and not, especially now. I'm not playing very much golf at all at the moment, but that's one of the weird things is we're always tweaking something. We're always working on something. But what hasn't changed is how I stand behind the shot. What hasn't changed is the way that I measure the shot, go through my process, stand behind the shot, walk into the shot, the club twirls, the stepping into it, the actual time. Mine ranges between 17 and 19, 21 seconds from the time I'm behind the ball, like actually ready to walk in. It's one of those things where it's like, I might not do the same thing, but it's going to fall, like you said with Tiger, like it's going to fall within this amount of frame of time. Specifically for me on the full shots. Now, putting, that's a wild statistic because, like, I'm not sure when the clock starts on that statistic with Tiger because, like, he can't obviously take as much time on a 4-footer as he does a 60-footer, like with the walking around and looking at it. So I'm assuming what they mean is, like, from the time that he's, like, behind, kneel down when he stands up to start walking into it, I think.
I think it's like his step
that's
in
a wild.
onward.
Yeah, either way, that is a wild stat that he was that consistent over throughout his career, or throughout a season even. But one thing about that is, like, when it's such a timing based thing, and this actually is a great leeway into TGL, but it's such a timing based thing where your body doesn't have to do the exact same thing, but it needs to feel the same rhythm. Just the way I can strum a guitar, like I can go through the different chord, not very many, 4 or 5, but I can go through the different chord progressions, and it doesn't matter which direction I go in them, right? It still feels like I'm strumming the guitar. It doesn't have to be in the same order every single time. So as long as like the time, and this what works for me. Shomo might teach something completely different. This is what works for me. I'm not going to do the exact same twitches and the exact same stuff because I'm a very twitchy dude. I don't even remember what I do, to be honest. Like my thumb looks like I'm texting. Like before a golf shot,
Like a
I'm
Jordan
like,
Spieth. And then when
well, he was my
pulls
favorite
it
player
over,
when I started playing golf. Jordan Spieth was my age, my favorite player, and I mean, he like literally just tap to tap. But that also is what I did with the baseball. So like, it was funny. I had a baseball in the truck yesterday. Skylar and I were going to get that horse, and I was just like palming the baseball, just like going through my pitches. 11 years later, I still know exactly where my fingers go on the baseball. And I would do this with the baseball. Like when it was in my glove, like I was always like just kind of tapping it or like fidgeting with it. And in fourth grade, I'd watched Drumline with Nick Cannon. So, like doing all the drumming
yeah,
and everything. I've just always been like a twitchy, ADHD type, fidgety type person. So, with that being said, they asked Ricky and Matt Fitzpatrick after they got absolutely blasted in night one. Yeah, in night one of the TGL. I did record that little solo pod the other night just to kind of get our immediate reaction of it. I think you had a birthday dinner for your grandmother, but it's one of those things where TGL. First of all, I thought night one went awesome. And get your thoughts on it. But they said, what's one rule that is in TGL that we could implement into golf? And immediately they both said shot clock.
yeah,
The players want it, bro. Like
yeah.
they want the shot clock.
Yeah, they want it faster. I mean, it's like the whole ordeal last year with who was it, like Patrick Cantley or something, about how slow he played. Like it's
There's multiple.
ridiculous.
There's multiple.
Well, yeah, and
Barry
I
Patrick's notorious.
I promise you, it's worse at the level of golf that we're in at point. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, but these guys are. We have really, really good golfers, and it's usually the really, really good golfers that take the longest. And like there's some good and some bad to that. They take the longest because again, you know what they're doing?
The process.
Pre-shot routine. And
Yeah,
they're doing it the same exact way every single time.
Right. But like speed it up, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, there definitely could be some like some ways to make that go faster. Again, like you said, the shot clock. Technically that's real. That's a real thing in golf.
Yeah. It's
right?
already a rule. Like all they have to do is start enforcing it.
Every single time we play in a golf tournament, I can almost guarantee you that I have to talk to at least one group. And sometimes it's the group that I'm walking with and sometimes it's my guy. I have to be like, hey, look, when we get ready for when it's our turn to go, we got to go. Like you got all the time in between this guy hitting and this guy hitting, especially on the greens. Like you're not always going to be the first one to go. You have all that time to do all the extra work, walk around the hole, read the putt, get your feels and whatever. Like, but when it's time to go, let's go. Like we have to speed it up. We have to speed it up in college golf.
I saw that a threesome on the PGA Tour average pace of play for a 3-ball is 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, I mean, and that's average. That means that some tournaments that's taking 5:30, 5:45 because the first threesome of the day is not taking 4:45. So, like, that's the hard part is like, and what most people don't understand is it's exactly like traffic. Like, the way traffic works, once one car reacts and the second car reacts and the second car, it's a viral reaction down the field. So your first 4 groups can go out and all play a brisk, perfectly on time pace of play. I don't know what they consider to be on time, but it's just one of those things where we have foursomes play shooting way higher scores, abiding by the rules of golf without caddies, like not cheating. Like you can say like some like roll in the fairway or whatever, but like they're not like that. That's the established rule of golf across normal off-season golf in the South or in the North, I'm sure. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like preferred lies is it. So anyways,
we're not playing PGA Tour course.
We're not playing PGA Tour rules, but at the same time, they're playing golf by the rules. Like they're playing by the rules of golf. They're just playing ready golf. And we play 4 balls in under 4 hours or 4 hours and 10 minutes. Like it just doesn't. And I'm not just talking about riding here. I'm talking about walking too. Like I think a lot of times, I think riding, if people don't know how to play ready golf riding, I think sometimes it's even slower because they'll sit in the cart. It's my biggest pet peeve. They'll sit in the cart. The ball's 12 yards up and to the right. Like, yeah, it's probably a little in the way, but you walk over there parallel. You wait on the guy to hit so that you're ready to walk into your shot, and then he'll take the cart and come pick you up, and you both go. Like it just drives
Yeah,
me nuts. But anyways,
I'm
all
the
right.
same way.
Um, as far as like you said, there's already a shot clock in the rule book. It's 40 seconds. It is already there. All they have to do is, to quote Brooks Koepka, start stroking, guys. All they have to do is just start assessing strokes and do what they do in junior golf. Like you go recruit, you go watch junior tournaments. Like they are on those boys, on those
Hmm.
girls about pace of play. Like you have to be on top of where you are as a junior. And then it's like they get to college golf and they're like, it's self policed out here. Like nobody's actually doing that. There's, it's unfortunate because they're trained this way. They're trained to play fast, and they're trained to. There are repercussions, and then suddenly your repercussions get taken away from you, and there are no repercussions to slow play, and that's when that traffic jam blocks up everything. I mean, the fact that the PGA Tour had to take field sizes down because they weren't able to finish rounds in a day. Like, come on, guys. There has to be a better solution than taking people's opportunities away from them.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I agree. I'm like I said, I'm off. I do not like to play slow golf. I think that gets people out of rhythm. I can get it on an occasional day. You may have a group where you got one or two guys spraying it and you're having to look for balls. But again, same thing. I'm the first one to speak up. You got 3 minutes. Like I'll call that on my own guys. Like,
we
hey,
out you.
but we're at 240. We're at 247. Let's go ahead and walk back to the tee box because I don't want to be out here any longer than we have to be. Like, and it's not, that sounds bad. I'm not trying to get
And
off the
also
golf course, but we're
play a
playing.
provisional.
Well,
Like,
yeah, that too. But like, again, like, I don't know. And it's something that like in college golf, again, it's every single time the coaches we have a group text or an email, and we'll get a text every single time we play. We play 36 holes in a day on the first day, right? It's always, let's keep the pace of play up and make sure that the guys are playing ready golf, right? And if you see a group that isn't doing that, let them know. If you have warned them, the host school or the host or the golf professional at the golf course has the authority to give those guys the penalty strokes, and it's happened. And I think that's a good thing because like a lot of these kids, they're just like, oh, I don't really care. I'm going to do my thing. They're not going to assess a penalty to me. But we've seen it happen. And so like I would say in the last year or so that the pace of play has gotten a little bit better. And, and again, a lot of it is just because the coaches are all on the same page. Like, hey, let's get these guys done. We don't want to have to come out here even earlier on a Tuesday to finish up 4, 5, 6 holes for one. And then like two, we want to have different pins. We want to have different, because they don't have time to change pins. We have to come back the next morning. So like,
well, and I think, yeah, exactly. That's a major point. You gotta play the same, field. And at a PGA Tour event, that's not that big of an issue because they have one guy to cut one cup and they have 17 other guys to cut the other 17 cups. Like that doesn't take too long. But at a smaller golf course like Noonan that hosts your event, or the others that y'all might play, even if they're great golf courses, they're normal golf courses. They're not stacked with volunteers. They're not stacked with extra agronomists and extra help. These are guys that are they're going home to their kids the same way me and you are going home to our kids, and it makes it really really tough. But with that being said, like on the flip side of that, I think it is a detriment to the game when we stretch out these rounds of golf that long. Like I think it's so hard to keep their attention span. Like one of the things I don't like about the pitch clock in baseball is I love being at the ballpark. But it's so much more efficient now that I
yeah,
feel like I go get one beer and one thing of Dippin' Dots. Like those are my two pit stops. Like it's one of those things where if you go to the Braves game, like you're it's a 2 hour thing now. Like
hmm,
it's not a 3.5 hour game, and it didn't take that much. I don't like. I think the players were a little thrown off by the pitch clock at first, but now it's just like a part of the game, and the games are just like flowing and they're faster, and I'm not saying that it's my favorite part of the game now of baseball because again, like if I'm gonna drive to Atlanta and if I'm gonna go up there, like I don't want to just get up there and then it's the sixth or seventh inning and now I got to turn around and go home. But at the same time, like it helps keep the interest up. It keeps the game flowing. It makes it faster. It makes it better for everyone. Pitch clock in the game of golf or shot clock in the game of golf is absolutely I think happening. I think it's gonna come sooner than later as far as like the announcement that they're going to start enforcing it. Like we said, it's already there. It's already You know what I'm saying? I think when you have your big stars of the game, I think are behind it. And I think that we're such like a friendly group of people as far as golfers, like for the most part. Like you don't really like having to go tell not one of your teammates, like not one of your players, but like a friend, a colleague, or whatever, if y'all are out playing like it's not fun for anybody to walk up to him and be like, hey man, you're playing too slow. Like that's not what we're saying. But at the same time, like if they know they're playing too slow and they're still choosing to do it on purpose because there's no penalty for it, even though it's already a rule in the game of golf, is that not cheating?
Yeah, they're like trying to abuse the system. I mean, yeah.
And
But, you know,
like everyone's guilty of it out there in their own
yeah.
way, shape, or form, because you have to keep yourself in that rhythm. Because if your two other guys in the three ball are playing slow and you're playing super fast, that's a major problem. Because you're going to get thrown out of your rhythm. You're going to get frustrated all day. So you have to then throw on the brakes. You've got to kind of take on that position of like slowing down in a way, because if not, you're just going to end up hosing yourself out there.
Yeah, then you have longer wait times.
Exactly.
Before you hit your shot if you're a fast golfer. So yeah, to all the dads, to wrap this into, or back to the kind of the point almost, is dads. Is he awake?
Yeah, he just woke up.
Oh no, dads need to teach the pre-shot routine, but teach ready golf and tell your kids how to make sure that they're ready when it is their turn.
Absolutely.
Their pre-shot.
This has been Scott Porter and Maddux Lido with episode 5 of the Overqualified Golf Dad podcast, right on the 45-minute mark, which is our goal, not to exceed that right now. So, yeah, anything else you want to say, Maddux?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been fun. Again, I'm looking forward to the next one. Keep listening, keep subscribing, and
we're gonna go ahead and announce the next guest of the Overqualified Golf Dads podcast. That is Mr. Shannon Lippum of West Georgia Golf, University of West Georgia, officially D1, and he is the first year as the head coach there. He's going to come on the podcast in the next week or so. We look forward to having Shannon on. Maddux, it's been a pleasure as always. I got a baby to go attend to. We're gonna get out of here.
Go to it, brother.
You got a baby mama to go attend to.
That's right.
All right, man. See ya.
See y'all.